Welcome to Travel Buddy, presented by Switchfly. In this podcast, we talk about all things travel, rewards, and loyalty. Let's get to it.
Hello, and welcome back to Travel Buddy, your 50th episode. And I am so excited to talk to you guys. Happy 50 episodes. And you can hear in my voice, when you do 50 episodes and also have kids in daycare, you get a little raspy. And so I am just excited to cap off this season that we've had. It's been wonderful. 2 years, 49 episodes. And I think the overall theme that we want to talk about today is how the show has matured, how the industry has matured, and how we've become best friends. And so, Rachel, I want to start with you. What has been your reflection on the last 50 episodes? What has been important to you? What have we seen? What have we learned? And where do you think the industry is going? So we'll start with you, and then I'll kick it over to Ian.
Yeah, so I came in at episode 25. Number 25 was actually my very first episode. So I've seen it really only in the second half of this, road to 50. And I feel like from episode 25 to now, we've just overall been able to incorporate more internal partners, more external partners, and gotten a little bit more in depth with some of the conversations that we're having from an industry standpoint. And I think, honestly, that is what has made the last 50 so cool to kind of reflect upon, is when you look at the first couple of episodes, it really is, our team going through some of the higher level conversations and really just that introduction to travel as it applies to loyalty programs and some of those more how to do this, how to incorporate that, etc. And now we're really getting into the nitty gritty because we've learned incorporating some of these industry experts in the conversation is so much more worthwhile, both from a conversation standpoint, but also a partnership standpoint. And I think it's really good for him to be on this because he was episode 1. So I would love to also hear what he thinks of this, because from the outside, having only been a part of this for 50% of the 50, I think I have a little bit of a different view of it.
Yeah, Ian, what's your take? You've been there since the beginning. Episode 1 was published, by the way, February 13th, 2024. My daughter turned 1 that day, so it's a happy day for me. And that was our very first episode. Ian, you've been here from the beginning. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, it's been a ride. We've had a lot of great conversations, talked to some pretty amazing folks over the last couple of years. I mean, with any endeavor, the more you do it, the better you get, right? It's just practice. We were laughing earlier before the call that those first few episodes were James and I just lecturing to each other, essentially, not really having a conversation. And as we kind of got more and more comfortable, especially as we started bringing others in to join us, trying to remember we don't have to stick to an outline or a script, that some of the weird little tangents we go down end up being our best episodes. So it's been fun. You've been a wonderful partner along the way. We definitely could not have had the success we've had with this show without you. So very appreciative of that. But yeah, it's been fun. It's also really cool to see. I went back and looked at a few of the early episodes, which are virtually unwatchable. But the topics we're talking about haven't changed too much, but definitely the way we talk about them the way the industry has grown. The both travel and loyalty side of things, I think, have definitely matured. You think about when we started, it was still kind of the trail edge of the COVID and pandemic era travel disruption. People were still kind of figuring out this new world of travel. Things like AI, obviously, were still very new. I think that's been one of the more interesting topics to discuss on here, and how that's changed over the last few years since we started talking about it. But yeah, it's been great. It's been a lot of fun. I definitely look forward to the next 50.
Right. That's right. Amen. Yeah, so episode 1, we obviously introduced the show and different topics, and then really quickly after that went into the economics of the industry. We talked about AI and automation. We talked about travel tips, which a lot more travel tips came out over the season as well. And then, yeah, talking about customer rewards and loyalty, APIs, machine learning. We had Rob Neat on the show. We have Noel, the CEO, has been on a few times, and Ashley has been on a few times. So we've had really great success internally, but then externally as well. We've had quite a few folks on the show that have been amazing to watch their expertise be shared with us and with our audience, with their audience as well, which leads me to the most watched, most listened to show ever on the show is with Battleface Insurance, because peace of mind when you travel is still a big deal. And people love to insure their trips and make sure things go smoothly, which you guys are always good about, customer support and how important that is. That's one of Noel's talking points, of course. But it's been really cool to see what has resonated with audiences and what's resonated internally with your team as you've been launching new products, talking about Switchfly Go. And then we've just talked about a lot of new things that you guys are working on, new ways of approaching things, and it's been really awesome.
I want to give Rachel a chance to dive in onto the getting partners side of things, because she's been the driving force behind getting so many of our external partners to join us, and has a lot to say about it. The one thing I want to highlight is when you're working at somewhere internally, sometimes it's hard to notice the change day to day, right? The Monday generally looks pretty much the same as Tuesday when you're at a job. But when you look back over the time, it is pretty impressive to see how the platform has grown over the last couple of years. You mentioned Switchfly Go, our kind of outreach to smaller organizations, being able to let their employees kind of share in travel rewards. But also the way we were really, I think, early in the crowd as far as incorporating AI into the Switchfly platform. Ravneet, who was our previous head of data science, was kind of a genius about that stuff. So it was always great. I think we brought him in several times to just let him cook on what the heck all this new AI stuff was, what it meant, where it's going. Looking back at some of those early episodes that we were talking about AI, it's really fun to see sort of how we had no idea, literally no idea what it was going to mean. I'm not saying we even have an idea now, but definitely it's become much more a part of our daily lives and the Switchfly platform. We had very specific use cases at the beginning, but those have just grown and grown and grown over the past couple of years. People like Mark Smith, our director of engineering, who's joined us, he went into how that's helping the platform grow. I think the kind of overall trend, if I can nail it to any one thing, is just being able for us to more rapidly integrate the Switchfly platform with our customers and getting them the ability to offer travel as one of their core rewards faster and easier and more widely available from a product standpoint as well. We our partner offering side of things, the products we offer have just grown and grown and grown. You mentioned Battleface and travel protection, but a wider range of activities, a wider range of travel options, all of that stuff we have teams working on internally trying to grow all the time. So it is really cool to kind of look back and see, for every single day, you might not think things are moving, but then you take a step back and see just how far you've come. And that's been a really fun ride with Switchfly.
Yeah, to double down on that, I think seeing the evolution of the way we talk about things has so closely paralleled to all of the updates that we're making to the platform itself. And I know we mentioned, Battleface was the #1 most listened, most download partner podcast episode that we have, but that came about because Switchfly offered that as a new product offering. So it was one of those, like, we wouldn't have had that if we weren't constantly innovating on our own platform. And even from the AI perspective, at the very beginning, some of the conversations 2 years ago were some experimental curiosity. It was, we aren't quite sure how we're going to bring this into the platform yet, but we know we need to, we know we want to. And now we have core features that have been launched specifically because of the evolution and the maturity of AI and how it's become an operational necessity. And I think that is such a cool, when you reflect on 50 episodes, that is such a cool transition in conversation. Is we are no longer talking about what it might look like. We have it in our system. It is one of the core, applications to the platform. And like, we have neighborhood insights and we have different personalization options where you can like search for destinations based on text input. It is so cool to look back on 50 episodes and see some of the ideas that were talked about and then see how it has come to fruition. And I also love that, to double down on that, like from a partner standpoint, we've had new partners come in that were able to, say, hey, you are the expert here. Do you want to talk about this? Because at the end of the day, like as much as Ian and I are, trying to stay up to date on everything in the industry, it's always better to have it straight from somebody who truly is an expert. And I think that has been one of the coolest things about partnering with these individuals, both from a Switchfly operational standpoint and being able to offer new products, but also being able to tap into it from a podcast standpoint.
Yeah, I love having those external guests on the show because, as you said, you get like on the grounds expertise from people that are living and breathing it. And you guys are, of course, and you've got all kinds of amazing products coming out, but seeing their perspective from a different lens, different part of the industry, it's really fascinating. But on your point, Ian, about we have been evolving and it's cool to see the pace at which you guys are developing your platform and the company as a whole. Almost 2 years to the day after we launched our first episode, Noel and I talked about Switchfly's vision for 2026. And the key word was velocity. And so the whole, train that is Switchfly, or plane, I suppose, is moving and moving quickly. And you guys are shipping really amazing things, especially around a lot of the AI, innovation that's going on there. That's a crazy evolving market. I just shared an article with Ian and Rachel this morning it was a travel and leisure article, and the writer was using a couple of different platforms to build an itinerary for his trip. And he talked about the ins and outs, the pros and cons of doing that. So it's an evolving thing, of course, but you guys are always staying on top of it, and it's cool to see what you guys are thinking of next.
Yeah. With AI, well, even long before AI, I think Switchfly was a early advocate of adding travel to rewards platforms, be it, customer or, excuse me. Thank you. It gave me a cold, Brandon.
No.
Either on the customer or the employee side. When I started, 4 years ago, almost, so much of what we had to do daily was educate a audience on just the availability of travel being an option for them, right? I think there was a pretty big gap in just that even being a possibility for many rewards offerings, whether for small businesses, for financial services, for whatever. And over the years, that's sort of transitioned to now, I think, the market basically knows, right? Everybody knows travel is an option. They're just not necessarily always sure how it fits in with their program, what provider to go to, how to differentiate between provider offerings. So much of what Rachel and I have had to do lately has been that transition of speaking to a more educated audience about travel and how they fit into different reward schemes. And that's actually been really gratifying. I think we've played a large part in the industry in sort of providing that education. And this podcast has definitely been a key part of that. along with a lot of our other marketing, we're having so much more inbound opportunities come to Switchfly just looking for travel specifically, right? We're no longer convincing people they need travel. They're coming to us and saying they need travel. How can we give it to them? Which obviously is very rewarding as a marketer and definitely great for the industry. I think then it's matured enough to where, like you mentioned, Noel saying that is finally a place where we can really focus on, right? So much before was about the education piece, and now though we can really kind of crank up the heat and push things forward.
So speaking of velocity, we've had 50 episodes, tens of thousands of listeners and viewers across 50 countries.
That's weird. I figured like 5 people would listen ever, maybe.
I think it was actually like 9 total.
Yeah. No. It's the 3 of us and then my mom.
Our moms.
Yeah, there we go.
Hey, happy Mother's Day, you know? Hey. Okay, but so where do we go from here? You know, what does the next 2 years look like? What are topics that have been on your mind, things you guys are thinking about internally, guests maybe? You know, what's on the horizon for where we're going with all this velocity?
Yeah, I think one of the things that is not going away is you're going to be hearing more from this greater Switchfly team. You know, that has been one of the coolest parts of being able to come in and almost activate these internal experts and showcase that, like, you know, this podcast isn't scary, I promise. It's been very cool to have voices like Carrie Griffin come on. You know, I know, Ian, you mentioned Mark came on. We had a couple of other individuals join us. Jess Steinberg is a recurring individual that comes on. She's going to be our next episode. Spoiler alert. And, you know, it's been very cool to transition the conversation from just Ian and I, no matter how much we love talking to each other, to bringing more of the greater team to the podcast. And I think outside of that, one of the other things that you won't see change is bringing on external experts as well. I know we've talked to Battleface, obviously. We've talked to one of our partners, Bermudair. We've had a lot of really great conversations with some of our external partners, and we would love to incorporate more of that. And whether they be direct partners or, you know, members of the ITC, et cetera, that's kind of where our focus is moving to, of how can we bring more industry experts to the podcast and expand the overall, you know, topics that we're talking about outside of just what Switchfly lives and breathes. And I want those conversations to, and I think, Ian, you too, we want those conversations to just go really naturally and want them to be more specific. I think that's one of the other things that has really changed over the last 50 episodes is we had a lot of education, to Ian's point, and getting to have an audience that is more educated and knows that travel is table stakes now, I think is such a great opportunity for us to dig into conversations that are deeper into, well, how does this actually work? What does this actually look like? Why is this happening? And one of the things, Ian, as you were talking about, how we have this more educated audience and that travel really has become table stakes, I think this is one of the things I'm hearing now that I think isn't going away is why that came to fruition, right? Like, why did travel become so necessary in loyalty programs and HR platforms? And it really is being driven by employee and customer expectations for personalized rewards and wanting to be able to utilize the programs that they are a part of for things that they can enjoy every single day. So I think that is definitely something that we're going to see over the next 50 episodes for the future. I don't think that that's going to go away, and we'll probably dig into more of the emotional loyalty aspects of travel rewards and how they apply to different programs for quite a while.
Yeah, I think, you know, trying to kind of remember back to James, my mind state when we first started Travel Buddy of what we wanted it to be. I think we kind of had the wrong idea initially, as far as we were thinking of this in pure marketing terms, right? This came out, those first couple episodes, at least the first couple outlines, until we sort of got bored with each other in our conversations. They were essentially infomercials, right? Like they were very, topic dependent, really pushing what made Switchfly stand out in the marketplace, what the benefits of adding travel that would come to companies if they partnered with us. It felt a little too salesy and very boring, and probably more to us internally than to anyone who might have listened. So I think sort of organically, we kind of started to learn we need some other voices, and we need to not really care so much about pushing Switchfly, but just naturally talking about the industry, talking about everything from traveler preferences to the tech to customer service to, talking about all parts of, travel and loyalty industries. The pitch, if you will, the how Switchfly stands out would sort of come out naturally, right? We wouldn't have to focus on that. We wouldn't have to highlight that. Just merely by as developed and prominent as Switchfly is, it would sort of stand on its own. All we had to do is define the space around it. Those led to just so much more interesting conversations than we'd ever thought of. They let us dive into just kind of all areas of the industry. Brandon, you and I are kind of both lifelong students, right? And are both extremely curious about the most random, weird little niche subjects that could come up in any particular thing. Not because, speaking for me, not necessarily because I'm so interested in doing or learning about this topic. What I find interesting is the people who are experts or knowledgeable or interested in that topic, and getting them to talk about it, getting them to bring out why it's important, how it fits into this kind of giant crazy puzzle. That's what's interesting to me, and what's been really fun that we've gotten to learn over the last 2 years. And I just see more and more of that, bringing in more expert voices, a wider range, weird, random topics that may not necessarily seem like they fit at first, but hopefully will fit right in after you hear it. And even if not, so what? I want to have fun conversations sometimes. And if every one of these isn't a home run, well, there's always next week, right?
Yeah, if you do want to have an episode on 15th century punctuation, I am all in.
That is still on the list. Yeah, that's on the backup list, right? Yeah.
No, I agree. I think something that I've learned is, which is funny because it actually does perform better in a marketing context, is I think what people want is value, and they want to be entertained. And so I heard once from an iHeartRadio host that what radio is, which is podcasts or a form of radio, is companionship. That we want to have a great conversation among people we like about topics that are interesting and provide value to the listeners. And so I think that's a lesson that we've learned over time, that we hope that this conversation is entertaining and valuable, and when you do see the performance, quote unquote, of the show, it's always someone's expertise, sharing stories and providing value or wisdom even. Some of Noel's, some of the top clips I was looking at on YouTube were Noel just sharing some wisdom, about different things, which I thought was really great. So yeah, it's a combination of many things.
My favorite example of that, not to cut you off, Brandon, but my favorite example has been a dear friend of mine here at work, Ariella Barche, who's one of our on our customer management team, and she has a pretty long history in customer service, especially in the hotel industry and catering industry. She's an expert on how to deal with customers, how to create an environment of proactive customer service in an organization. Frankly, I love Ariella to death. I thought it was going to be the most boring conversation ever. Was not at all excited to talk customer service for 40 minutes or whatever. And it turned out to be one of my favorite conversations we've had. She is so knowledgeable about it. I think what also made it was she was one of those who was so nervous to come on. Rachel and I had to cajole her for weeks to finally get her to work up the courage to come on. She ended up having a great time, wants to come back on. She was able to just sit there and cook for half an hour straight without any interruption about all things customer service, ways it can make organizations, better and more successful. And it turned out to be a fascinating conversation. And I'm happy to say, was dead wrong beforehand.
Great. That's great. Rachel, do you have any kind of unexpected episodes? Anything that's caught your attention?
I mean, I did really love Ariella's podcast. It was one of the episodes where I was not able to join because I think I was traveling, or there was a reason why I wasn't able to join. And I was really, I was anticipating listening to the recording on the way back. But I think one of the ones that I knew was going to be a really great episode, and I just needed it to happen, was Carrie Griffin's episode. And and you and I have talked about this, Brandon. She is just such a wealth of knowledge and has so much industry expertise, and it's just fascinating to listen to her, own the thought leadership, own the space. And that one, I knew going into it was going to be a great episode. I didn't know how good of an episode it was going to be. And it was one that I actually listened to multiple times because I was like, there are so many good nuggets in here. How do we keep going with this? I want her to come back 1,000 times.
Yeah, I think it'll be so fun. Yeah, you guys have such an incredible team. I think just listening to all your different perspectives, the camaraderie, the kind of the shared vision that you guys have built over the years has been just such a delight, such a joy. Well, I have had it's been such a delightful experience working with you guys and having these conversations. And so I'll leave you with this final question. What are you looking forward to most in the next year of delivering these conversations to folks?
What am I looking forward to most? One of the things I think I love most about the podcast is that it gives us the opportunity to build rapport with people that we work with and people that are industry experts. And I look at these conversations as probably a little bit more relaxed than some of our colleagues do who are nervous to come on. I mean, I was in the same place when I first started, and I had never done a podcast too. I was obsessing over the conversation. And I think one of the things that I look forward to the most over the next couple of episodes and well into the future is just being able to build those relationships, because we don't get to have open conversations like this regularly, right? Like, we're so head down in completing the next task, making sure that the next implementation is done. We don't get to have some of these open conversations. And I think the podcast really gives us that space and that time to explore what does XYZ person know and tell our own stories and really riff on off of each other. It's one of my favorite things. And I think that camaraderie that you mentioned is something that I look forward to over the next 50.
And I think I just look forward to getting able to spend more time talking to one of my best friends, Rachel, and seeing just how brilliant she is every day.
Heart hands.
So heartwarming. This has been the most heartwarming conversation. No, this truly has been really, really awesome. Yeah, I appreciate you both very much. Appreciate the Switchfly team, the hard work you guys are doing this year, especially with the theme of velocity. It's never easy, but it's always a beautiful thing to watch people work in the same direction and ship things quickly and delight customers. And so it's been.
We definitely
cool
appreciate you, Brendan. You've been instrumental to our success in this. So thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Grateful to serve. Yeah, thank you very much, guys. All right. Well, we will see you on the next episode with Jess. We'll see you then. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.